Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the RENNSPORT Community League. We are here in episode 5 of season 3, and we have quite the interesting situation for today. But as usual, I'm not alone to get you through the evening, because I'm joined by Tim Ireland, as usual, in the booth.
Hello, Lino. Hopefully there'll be less fireworks this week, but I can't promise anything.
Well,
I mean from audio fireworks, not on track, because there can be loads of fireworks on track. That'd be great.
Well, it surely will be interesting. And somebody might feel like setting up some fireworks by, taking the lead in the standings, because the car we are watching right now with the number 1 on the side panel, that's Dominik Ladler. He's currently sitting P2 in the standings. And, well, on top of the standings, of course, Dennis Heinz, who has won every race so far this season. Been a very dominant display by the German, but... And maybe you want to bring the message, Tim, to the audience?
He is... I think he's doing something with his family today, so he can't take part in the race, unfortunately.
That's right, and with the points payoff for a win being roughly 120 to 150 points. Of course, you have a bit smaller grid today, but the gap between Heinz and Ladler only being 90 points. It could come down to very equal points entering the last race at Spa-Francorchamps in 2 weeks. It will be very interesting.
Yeah, and it'll be good for us. It's always good to have a battle on the last round of a championship. It's been pretty close up to now, obviously, because it's only 90 points, but putting the pressure on Heinz to pull it out of the bag on the last race, which is always good at Spa as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it last week in the RENNSPORT community event. It has been a big blast, to say the least. We are currently in qualifying, though, as we watch Julian Schick, who is also trying to make up some spots in the championship. We have quite the number of Audis here today. Usually we see that the Audi is more of the lesser represented cars. But
yeah,
today they make up half of the grid.
Yeah, we've got 3 Audis, 2 Porsches, and a BMW. No love for the AMG or the Aston Martin, which I find personally disgusting.
I mean, you could have had the chance to try out a new car. But however, we will see much more of the Aston Martin in the near future, probably. Meanwhile, the question in the chat from SK, you can simply join the servers when they are up half an hour before the race. So you don't need to register anywhere else for RCEs or RCLs. Just have a look on the Discord when these events take place. Register for the event and have fun on track. Even though these events have a minimum rating requirement of 1600, so you have to complete 10 races and have those 1600 rating. But that's fairly trivial to do, let's say it like that. So you watch Pascal Jordan.
Should be doing that anyway.
Yeah, very much so. And you have also the chance to join many other league races. If you take a look at either the Discord or social media, you'll find a list of all special events happening each week. And we will have many more events to follow in the community league area, let's say. Because they're, of course, privately hosted championship like SHRs on Monday, TRL on Wednesday, and all that kind of stuff. I think there's also something happening later this week, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so, yeah. Don't we have something running in more of an American time zone?
Yeah. Because in 2.5 hours, there will be the Aero Sprint series, which is new, with the touring cars at the Nürburgring. So if you want to join that, you select the server at 10 p.m. CET to join it for the race at 10:30, basically. And in 2 days will be the Simco RENNSPORT League. I did quite confuse that with the name of another moderator, but anyway. The Simco RENNSPORT League at Spa with GT3 and GT3X at 18:30 CET. So plenty of stuff to race in. But we are right now in qualifying for the third race in the season. And currently on top of the standings is Danny Schröder. Have we seen him before? I definitely recognize that last name, but was it Danny?
I can't remember if it was Danny Schroeder or not, to be honest. But yeah, he's had a pretty good lap time. So the gaps are fairly even down the field at the minute. Dominic Ladler and Lasse Mertens obviously not setting a lap time just yet.
I mean, Danny Schröder definitely trying to throw the standings. And big impressions he does. Dominic Ladler 2/10 down, or 2/10 down in the second sector, nearly 1 in the first sector. Going through the final turn, let's see what he puts on the board, and it's a 118.47, puts him third. I mean, Road Atlanta has delivered some action, no matter if with many or lesser cars. But
sure,
we have 4 very proven racers on this grid. We have 2 we don't know much about, but who've also looked strong. I mean, Danny Schröder especially, but Lasse Mertens, we don't know what he is capable of yet. We will see. But, I mean, this could end up in a 5-way dogfight for the win, if this continues like that.
I hope it does, personally. Sorry out there, guys. But, yeah, I mean, if people are fighting for position and tripping each other up, then it could easily, judging by the lap times, stay pretty close together, which will be exciting for us watching, and I'm sure exciting for them driving.
I mean, very much so. Dominic Ladler has backed some wins here at this racetrack, so he's proven himself on Road Atlanta. Joachim Thunder has...
Dominic Ladler seems to have thrown back to the Porsche of his what used to be his main car that he used to drive all the time. So I wonder if it's maybe throwing a little bit, being rear engine and not what he's used to at the minute.
I mean, he has reverted, as you said before the stream to me, did a bit of a throwback with the livery, because usually we've seen him in the Diamond Founders livery, which is also absolutely gorgeous, but I think this one has to be my favorite livery currently in the game.
It's a quality livery, you can't deny it.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably also a bit of reminiscence of a certain other Porsche in yellow and green.
Don't know what you mean. I'm pretty sure there's no yellow and green Porsches in existence.
Unlikely. But I mean, it is a very different thing on its own, and I really like it. It kind of looks rebellish, punkish, and I really like that style. Also with those signings basically everywhere. And this lap looks pretty good. Not as good in the second sector, but the first one was very good.
Yeah, he seems to be losing a bit of speed somewhere in the second sector.
Comes down to an 18.2, and we finished qualifying. Danny Schröder and Dominic Ladler line up on the front grid, so it was good enough to get up into second for Dominic Ladler. And then it's Julian Chicot alongside Pascal Jordan. I mean, Jordan, we've definitely seen what he is capable of. And it will be very interesting, that I can assure you.
The only one taking a front engine car in today's race.
Yeah, that's also, of course, a factor. But just to give you a rundown of the schedule for next week, where we wait for the cars to get going and the drivers to get ready for the race start. Next week, of course, we will be back with the Founders League, the final race of Season 2, and the RENNSPORT community events, being GT4s with the day-night cycle now at Hockenheim. And then the GT4 series will make way for the front-wheel drive series. That's basically all the interesting or most interesting stuff on the schedule. We will get back to it later on, because we can hear the engines come to life in the background. And here we have them. So, Enrico Broniger, who's unfortunate here today, asked you to curse someone. Who is it going to be?
I don't want to curse anybody. I'm going to curse Dominic Ladler then. I think Ladler's going to win it.
I will agree with that one. It's Danny Schröder remaining in the lead through turn 1, but it's Julian Chico who jumped up into third after being side by side with Jordan. Let's have a look further down to Joachim Thunder. Currently still holding on to that train of cars, and I think those 5 will be the most interesting racing we have seen since probably Jeddah. I mean, where we had that extreme fight between Heinz, Ladler, and I think it was Benauder.
I think it was Benauder, yeah. But yeah, they're keeping fairly close gaps at the minute. There's less than a second between the less than a second gap, at least, between the first 4 drivers.
Of course, laps here at Road Atlanta are very short. An interesting thing about today's race, of course, also that we probably won't see a pit stop.
Nope. Oh, it's a very short race, and due to a slight bug, refueling isn't working right now.
Julian Chico going straight, exiting turn 1.
Managed to keep it out the wall, though.
Yeah, I mean, that is very crucial since damage is turned on for this event.
No fuel, but there is damage.
Very much so, indeed. So, due to some issues with the refueling part of the pit stop at the moment, the fuel consumption on the cars is disabled. So, you'll probably see these cars going close behind each other for 45 minutes.
Yeah, they probably won't pit unless they need to change tyres, which I doubt it in a 45-minute race.
Dominic Ladler in a prime slipstream position though. Can't quite get close enough this time around. But I mean, you don't really want to use your tires too early now, won't you?
No, he's fairly settled in behind Danny Schroeder there. He's got plenty of time to try and figure out where his strengths are, where Danny Schroeder's weaknesses are in the race, and plan a bit of a move and try and make it a good one that sticks rather than trying all the time.
Meanwhile, I'm trying to find some info on whether we've seen Danny Schroeder before, because as said, the name is very familiar. Of course, Schroeder not a very uncommon name in Germany, but still. Isn't he maybe from the TRL group? Wasn't that something?
Oh, I wonder if he is. I wonder if he's one of the TRL drivers. That's well brought up, but I don't know the answer.
Of course, would be a very crucial part for Dennis Heinz, who's also part of that bubble. And indeed, he is part of the TRL races. Currently P2 in TRL Season 6. Can, of course, all see that in the RENNSPORT app.
So he's definitely got some experience racing from being part of that league. And he seems to be holding his own pretty well here. Dominic Ladler seems to drop back a bit more towards the end of the lap, but then catches up more in the kind of like second sector kind of area.
He seems to be very strong in the first sectors, Dominic Ladler.
Yeah.
I mean, especially through the S's, it's very easy to either lose the car, but at the very least get very loose on the rear end. And I mean, with the Porsche having the weight on the rear axle, it might actually help you a bit. Still, this complex of corners is no joke to tackle.
Yeah, you've got to be, with a Porsche, you've got to be fairly comfortable with the back end moving around. It can be a bit lively, to say the least.
I mean, that's basically what it's known for. But I mean, the cars aren't that far apart for what has happened with Julian Chico especially.
They're lapping very similar times, and the gaps opened up a little bit, and I think it's just because people are lapping so close together. They're not. None of the gaps are really kind of closing or opening any further.
Well, we said that Pascal John dipped his tires into the grass a bit too much, and now has Julian Chico right behind him. Back end of the beam was sliding out a bit. I mean, that EWC livery also looks gorgeous, I'd say.
It's a really good livery. But with these two maybe starting to fight a bit more, Pascal Jordan having to take a few more defensive lines through corners. It's not far until Jochen Thunder will end up in that fight.
Yeah, very much so. And Julian Chico seems to be now, after his off-track moment after turn 1, in a much better groove.
Yeah.
Taking a closer line through turn 1 compared to Pascal Jordan. Oh, Pascal Jordan going very wide there into the wall. Seems to only have brushed it, so he can carry on, but maybe the pressure has gotten to him.
There is a bit of an interesting curb over that corner, so it can be quite easy to hit it and get sent a little bit wide. But yeah, it doesn't seem to have really taken any damage, so hopefully it won't harm his pace much.
Let's hope he can get back to grips with his car very soon, to not lose too much time to the two Audis ahead. But I mean, all that helped the two Porsches up front to build quite a comfortable gap to the cars behind.
Yeah, they've got a lot further away than I thought they were going to do, to be honest. Maybe a bit of the experience of Dominic Ladler and apparently Danny Schroeder showing off there, and they've managed to stay more consistently quick than the other drivers.
Meanwhile, unfortunately, Lasse Mertens has retired from this race. Surprising to see how aggressively some take certain curves. Okay, can't talk. Curves. I usually wouldn't take that on Road Atlanta, but I mean, these guys definitely seem to have it under control.
Maybe that's why we're talking about racing, and they're actually racing.
Celebrating a bit early there, maybe. But now coming into turns 10A and 10B. I think that is one of the parts of the track where that re-engine really comes most into play. Since you go uphill, you want to get this weight down on the rear axle. And the Porsche just allows you to nearly stomp on it, I'd even say. While in other cars, especially in the Audi with the shorter wheelbase, you have to be a bit more, have a bit more fidelity.
Yeah, it's quite easy to lose a bit of grip going up there in the Audi, and it's definitely an advantage having all that weight at the back in the Porsche. It frees up a little bit of brain power when you don't have to worry too much about what your right foot is doing.
Meanwhile, we get some information or confirmation in the chat from Medusu, because I'm not sure which of the two it is, but we have seen both in RCEs and RCLs and hopefully see them back at some point. Dennis Heinz, Joachim Thunder, Danny Schroeder, and the two Medusus are in the TRL gang. And maybe Danny Schroeder decided to jump in for Dennis Heinz here today. So
doing a bit of blocking action, trying to stop him getting a win.
I mean, with 6 cars in the race, we can only estimate with the points, unfortunately. But let's say Danny Schroeder will get those around about 120 to 130 points. Dominic Lyle will probably get about 100, 90 to 100, putting Heinz and Ladler basically equal on points for the final race. And that would be, I think, a big help for Dennis Heinz. Not that he necessarily needs it with what he has shown in the first 4 races of the season. But after all, this is still GT3 racing, so a lot can happen that is outside of your control. And if you go into a final race level on points, you are definitely more comfortable and more flexible than if you have, let's say, a 30, 35 point deficit. I mean, we've seen it with the DTM finale a couple of weeks ago. You know, Pascal Jordan couldn't really keep up with the two Audis in front, but Joachim Thunder has closed the gap to Julian Chicot to about 1.2 seconds.
Yeah, Jordan's maybe lost a little bit of confidence in his BMW after that trip off towards the wall, and he probably had to take it a bit easy for a couple of laps just to let his tyres cool down afterwards.
I mean, we don't know how exactly he hit the wall. We know that he has hit it, but if it's just a bit of bodywork, then it's of course no issue. If he hit it with the tire as well, he might have a bit of a misalignment you have to get used to. And since it's the right-hand side tire, it does play into effect in quite the, well, more interesting turns of this track. Of course, most of the turns are right-handers, so the left-hand side tires are loaded, but I mean, especially the exit off turn 5 and going through turn 4, you really need to lean and trust your right-hand side tires, don't you?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's to turn 5. It's you always feel like you need to get a decent run out of that corner.
Yeah, and it's very easy to mess that one up going over crest and on the curbing, which is very rough around here. But now Joachim Thunder, closer and closer, 5/10. Giving us
He's
a good...
very much in the kind of drafting zone now, isn't he, for the back straight?
He is, but of course, as we've just seen, he ran a bit wide. You're also in the dirty air zone. Of course, GT3 cars can cope with it quite well, but on a track like Road Atlanta, you do feel the difference.
Yeah, he's just dropped to back. Maybe a little bit too much to get an optimum amount of toe out of it on this lap. Okay, got a little bit messy in the last few corners.
In the background, Pascal Jordan did a bit of a drift there, exiting T7. But this lap was definitely advantage to Julian Chicot.
Their pace over the laps is very, very similar. There's only a few tenths in it one way or another.
Oh, Joachim Thunder round through turn 5, losing it on the entryway to the turn. Did he hit the wall there?
He didn't make it to the wall, no.
He is beached, I think. I think he was beached on the curbing.
Yeah, he was for a little bit. He said either that or he'd stalled his engine and he had to restart it. Well, he has got going again now.
That's of course something, but a big throw back to the grid with a big gap now to Pascal Jordan will be quite hard to catch up, I think. But we know that he doesn't give up. So let's have a look. Up front, Danny Schroeder. Meanwhile, a 5-second advantage to Dominik Ladler after third of the race distance. But I mean, we've seen how fast things can change. Just one tiny slip up like Joachim Thunder had and your advantage is gone.
Joachim Thunder is lapping a little bit quicker than Pascal Jordan, but I don't know if he's going to have enough of a pace advantage. There's still 28 minutes of the race left, and like you said, he doesn't give up. So we'll carry on rooting for him.
Well, maybe we shouldn't because we just curse him with that, I guess. But Danny Schroeder, so far, mistake-free performance, I'd say.
Yeah, he's doing a good race right now. His laps are tailed up a little bit, which you're going to expect as a race kind of progresses and your rubber starts to wear a little bit more. But he's keeping a fairly solid pace going. And he seems to be putting in a really good, clean drive. I tried to curse him for you, Dominic, but it didn't work.
Question is, would it be fairer if we wouldn't broadcast the race to not curse anyone? I don't think so.
Some of the listeners might think it would be fairer.
Meanwhile, I've tried to have a look if Schroeder, not Schroeder, he of course was in certain RCL events, and
Yeah.
I hope that he can finish his, is it university or is it college? I don't know, his school stuff in the near future to come back to us racing here on RENNSPORT. But Danny Schroeder hasn't driven in any RCL race so far.
Oh, fair enough.
I mean, for a serious debut to come in and lead against some of the biggest names in this league, I think that says something about your driving skill and level.
Of course, we RENNSPORT fully endorsed him, showing his choice to pursue his education as frivolous car racing. But we do miss him.
And we do so very much. I mean, he has a, how would you call that? He has an on-track action named after him.
As a signature move.
Very much so, yeah, a signature move. That's great.
Or if you're more into anime, it's more of a special technique.
But I'm not much into anime, so... And the viewer count is dropping. Just kidding. But yeah, Julian Secor seems to be very stable in his position as well at the moment.
His lapping is still lapping within 2/10 of his best lap as well, which is pretty impressive. I was just looking at Danny Schroeder's fastest. He's still lapping in the 1:17s at the minute. Dominic Ladd just dropping off a little bit more. But yeah, Julian Secor seems to be almost on the same pace he was at the beginning of the race, which is impressive at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, you have to take into account the tires degrade. The fuel level doesn't. So, of course, usually you would see faster lap times nearing the end of the race due to less fuel load. But, yeah, in this case, it's different. You would expect the lap times to get slower and slower each time around. But, yeah, as you said, they don't.
No, they're all... I mean, none of them are going slow by any means. But Julian Secor in particular seemed to be holding really close to his best lap time.
I mean, on the other hand, we talked about how much Danny Schroeder is helping Dennis Heinz at the moment. For Dominic Lala, this is also just what he needs at the moment.
Yeah, a win would have been nice, obviously, for the points, but he doesn't need to win to take the lead of the championship. So he's in a very comfortable position right now. He's got plenty of clean air around him and no traffic to worry about. So he can just keep putting in the laps and still come away from here doing what he needed to do.
I mean, we've seen him win championships by that.
Yes, for sure. He is Mr. Consistency.
And I mean, Spa is, I think, the perfect track to determine who is going to win season 3. Just wanted to say 4, but 4 is in the making.
I mean, you might have just finished at Spa as the perfect track, to be honest.
Not sure everybody would agree on that, but most people do, I think, and that for good reason.
But we are in a game with the Nordschleife. It's debatable.
I mean, they're very different, but they are good for these different reasons.
That was a very diplomatic answer, Lino.
I know.
Julian Secor putting another lap in, a 10th off his best lap. 25 minutes into a race.
Well, that's
Pascal
of course
Jordan
also a different kind of consistency.
Yeah, Pascal Jordan just did his fastest lap of the race.
But the gap between Thunder and Jordan seems to be coming down to 7 seconds now. After Joachim Thunderspin, it was 14.
Yeah. Yeah, the gap between Jordan and Secor seems to have opened up. So I wonder if there was a bit of an accident there. As long as his car's good, it's not too big a deal.
I mean, we still have 20 minutes to run. That's approximately 15 laps, if I'm not mistaken. 15 to 16.
Yeah, I think 15. to have two people maybe who are having a bit of a fireworks battle at the minute. I get stereo pops in different directions.
It's quite interesting that it's only on Fridays, apparently.
Oh no, it is most of the week. As I was telling you last time about the 5th of November, that's obviously next week. So it all kind of depends which weekend people are free to do stuff, which the next few days will be more and more fireworks, and then it hopefully will taper off. But yes, after a bit of quick math, it's just over 15 laps remaining, so we might get 16.
Let's go on board with Joachim Thunder for a bit. They're going through 10B. That is Pascal Jordan, that is his target.
So he does have him in view for a little bit of the lap, which is always good observation. Joachim's undertaking another 4/10 out of Pascal Jordan that lap, so the gap is closing, as long as he doesn't keep doing that.
I mean, he kind of salvaged it very nicely.
He did, yeah.
I mean, we've talked about the livery from Dominik Ladler earlier in the stream and how he's throwing back to the older days of Season 1. Joachim Thunder. He has used this car for 1.5 years now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, yeah, he's a creature of habit with his livery, that's for sure.
And I mean, it's great to see. You will always recognize him definitely on track. And I think this livery, which of course was the first one you could get, the Katowice livery.
Yep.
Which you could only get before the game was even in closed beta. I think it's very rare nowadays as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know how many people in the game, who were active in the game at least, actually have that. I know I do for a BMW, but I do tend to drive the Audi. Oh no, I have it for the Audi. I own the Audi, so I have this exact livery.
I do too. Of course, I collected everything for the Audi. Just a little flex.
I don't have the DreamHack one.
You don't have the best one out of the bunch?
No, I don't know.
Okay, the best one after the Founders Pack, I still love it. Even if it's not on screen right now, the Founders Pack livery will always be gorgeous.
We have got a good selection of liveries in this one, though, because Danny Schroeder's driving the Beta Winner livery as well. So Most of the cars on track are using non-default liveries, which is good to see.
Well, only Julian Chico is. And I mean, that default livery also isn't... I mean, it is a default livery, but not the default livery, of course. It's the Phoenix car from 2022. So...
Yeah, I think so.
For me, as a Phoenix fan, this is, of course, fairly awesome. I actually have that one on my shelf.
Cool.
Should be the 22 one, because that's when they won.
Gap between Thunder and Jordan just under 6.5 seconds now, so he is dragging him in.
But it's only
Pascal
40
Jordan's-
minutes left to go.
It is still only 14 minutes left to go, but I think in the last 5 minutes it's come down maybe a second. So he's still got a way to go, but I'm sure it'll start to weigh on Pascal Jordan's mind a little bit.
I mean, of course, he knows Joachim Thunder, I think. And
Yeah,
if you
I think so.
if you see a name like Lala Thunder, or himself actually, but of course he can't be followed by himself, you do know if they are reeling you in at this rate that you might be in trouble at the end of the race.
Yeah, he's gonna know that Thunder's laps are gonna be fairly consistent. So when you're driving a car, doing maths in your head isn't exactly easy. So he might try to work it out and do a bit of head maths and figure out if he's safe or not, but that's just another distraction. You try not to do that.
Very much so. But while Joachim Thunder is trying to get closer to Pascal Jordan, we might as well take another look at the schedule for next week, week 45. We are getting closer to the end of the year, actually. It's not
We are.
that much longer to go. But yeah, as said, the FWD series, or the front wheel drive series, is coming back onto the schedule. And Praga will be with us for one more week. If you want to try the GT4s at Hockenheim, you can do so in the daily feature race. Of course, all those times no CET, even though you might see CEST saying in the top split.
It's a rookie mistake.
Very much so. I mean, who invented that time-changing thing anyway?
Ugh.
Don't they also change at a different time in Britain than to Germany?
Yeah, they do, yeah. Just to confuse matters for me further.
Very much so. However, the GT3X car, the 911 RENNSPORT, will be mixed with the GT3 Cup at Daytona. That might be a very interesting combination, since the Cup is also fairly strong on the straights, but of course lacks the downforce of the 911 RENNSPORT. At Hockenheim you can drive also the GT3s and front wheel drives as multi-class races. And yeah, apart from that, GT3 will go to Orchard Road in Monza, and the week after, so in 2 weeks, we will try something a bit bolder with the GT3s at Crest, since many of you seem to like Crest a lot, which we didn't quite anticipate that it's going to be
I've got to admit.
this popular within the community. But of course we want to give in. Oh, and Pascal Jordan, as we see there, has gone off the track. And now Joachim Thunder, only 3 seconds behind, just spotted it in the side view of my eye, basically. Good thing we were anyway finished with the schedule itself, but just went straight on.
Yeah, it happens sometimes, especially if you've been pushing maybe overdriving your car a bit too much. The tires get a bit warm, and you think they're going to turn and they don't. But that's going to be a carrot in front of Joachim Thunder to see the gap come down that much. He's going to be pushing all the harder for the next 10 minutes.
It's definitely a big helping hand here for Joachim Thunder.
And it's probably going to worry Pascal Jordan a little bit and maybe add a bit more anxiety to his turning. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword. Well, yeah, not really a double-edged sword, but it's a bit of a catch-22, I suppose.
Where each driver gets one edge. One the good, one the bad, I guess. Dennis Schroeder still riding the curbs quite aggressively. I mean, times have dropped now after that amount of time, but if somebody would set new best lap times now at this stage in the race, it would be quite mental, even though Julian Chicot is still doing stellar lap times.
He is, yeah. He's still incredibly close to his best lap time. I don't know what secret sauce he's using, but it's working for him, that's for sure.
And just to give you his perspective, his best lap time was an 18.3. For reference, Dennis Schroeder's best lap time is a 17.7, so it's 6.5 off the overall best lap time. But Julian Chicot is currently lapping as fast as Dennis Schroeder with a 1:18.8.
And Dominic Ladler was putting in an almost identical lap time as well. So those top three drivers, very, very close on pace at this point in the race. It's just a pity Julian Chicot couldn't hold on a bit closer early on.
I mean, that mistake going out of turn 1, and I mean, he was lucky to not get into the wall or brush the wall like Jordan did exiting turn 5.
Yeah, true.
Because if you go wide through turn 1 and go on the gravel, the track falls away from you, or the not track falls away from you. It's easy to just go straight into the wall and basically have the car toe-tailed. Or at least very badly damaged, something we have seen before. I think Joachim Thunder was affected by it once. Oh, and Dennis Schroeder is stationary.
Yeah.
Why is Dennis Schroeder stationary? He's just resumed driving after Dominic Ladler went past.
It was a very strange occurrence.
Well, let's hope we will find out what exactly happened, but that has now given the lead to Dominic Ladler. And everything that we talked about the last 15 minutes is completely irrelevant. What has happened with Dennis Schroeder?
I have no idea. I saw he was stationary about the same time you did, and I'm not entirely sure why.
5.7 seconds in 6 minutes. I'd go as far as to say that this is too much for the two drivers, or in between the two drivers, to make up from Dennis Schroeder.
You'd think so, for sure.
I mean, the difference in lap time is marginal between the two. Talking 200th. Breuninger putting in the theory that he likes Ladler more than himself, but seeing as he is a TRL driver, as well as Dennis Heinz, I don't know if he
just seemed to pull over, unless something went on with his PC, but he does pull completely off the racing line. So a very strange occurrence.
Let's hope we get to know what exactly happened. I mean, I guess Joachim Thunder and Dennis Schröder are in a voice chat with each other. As they usually are in the race, to what I know. Or at least Joachim Thunder is usually keeping us updated on what his mates are doing. But he's having a task of himself because he's 1.3 seconds behind Pascal Jordan with 4.5 minutes left to run in this race. Very curious circumstances, to say the
For
least.
sure.
I mean, we've rarely seen something like this happen. I mean, of course, we know the usual. Somebody has to park because, I don't know, something set on fire or I don't know, something in real life that happened.
Yeah,
But,
we've had the occasional hardware issue or people not knowing how to turn their headlights on in the dark.
Also, this track, curiously,
Yeah.
we didn't really have a race without anything unusual happen at this track, did we?
No, I don't think we have, no. It always seems to throw a bit of a curveball out there.
I mean, in the Runners-Up Cup, it was Nico Nünninghoff doing a very oddball mistake into turn 1 and just losing it. Therefore giving the win to, I think it was Benauder back then. In the 200 miles event, we had one of the Audi GT3s having issues with the light, foreshadowing the wheel. Pity Le Mans.
Yeah.
That's the... I mean, we predicted it.
Yeah,
Then
it's just how hyper-realistic RENNSPORT is.
Very much so. In this case, now Dennis Schröder coming to a hold for some reason near the end of the race.
Maybe they just like to mess with us and make everything we talk about completely useless.
Could very well be. I mean, in the second season, where of course Waterlanta was featured for the first time, Dominic Ladler made a typical mistake, didn't he?
Yeah, he did,
spun.
yeah. Probably after we spent ages talking about how consistent he is.
Yeah. I mean, he did the same at Orchard Road, where we talked about how consistent and calm he usually is. And of course, Orchard Road and Mission R was a combination that really didn't work for him at all.
No, for sure. I've got to admit, I don't think that'd be a combination that would work for me either.
But what definitely seems to work for him is a Porsche 911 GT3R on Road Atlanta, because he has 2 laps to go. The gap to Dennis Schröder has come down to 4.2 seconds, but of course that's still quite a lot. Joachim Thunder, meanwhile, broke into the 1 second barrier to Pascal Jordan. So it could be tight between the two of them. He has 2 laps to make a move, or 1 lap to get close, 1 to make a move. And it's a very German. Yeah, it's not really an English phrase for the German one, but yeah, apparently Tim did the invert curse, I guess, at the beginning of the race.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
I do like the direct translation of our phrase. And we've crossed the 45-minute mark. The next flag will end the race. And the next flag will also be only checkered. Cautions in GT racing would be quite interesting though. Gap between Thunder and Jordan, 4P4, 8/10. So Joachim Thunder has to have a very good Sector 1 and Sector 2.
Yeah, he's going to have to try to pull something out of the bag if he wants to take that position. He was 0.2 faster in the last lap, but it's not like a massive amount when the gap's 8.
Dominic Lala out of the final turn to win round 5, his first race win of the season. Danny Schroeder will come home in P2. We hope to find out what exactly happened with the two. But Julien Chicot will finish on the podium. We'll also give him a good leap in the standings. But who will be fourth? Will it be Pascal Jordan or Joachim Thunder? Joachim Thunder is in the slipstream, but it seems like he's just a bit too far back. If Pascal Jordan can keep it together, exiting turn 10 and turn 10B, goes a bit wide, but seems like it's enough for Pascal Jordan. They come through the finish line nose to tail. And it will be Pascal Jordan finishing P4. And only 1/10 separating the two. We had a photo finish last week with 2 cars on track. Now we had a near photo finish with 5 cars on track.
We're getting better.
Yeah, we're getting more consistent.
2 cars, 5 cars. The next one's going to be 8 cars.
Why not? Let's wait and see what the results are for the standings in the championship. It should bring a big swing in points, and it's a very big one, as it seems. Because if we go back to live footage, you will see Dominic Ladler has gotten a lot of points here from this race. 180 to be exact. And well, how quickly this can change, right?
Yeah, that's a good points haul. So rather than being 90 behind, he's now 90 ahead, right?
Very much so. And this one will be quite hard for Dennis Heinz to overcome. 90 points. That's a lot of points. I think Dominic Lala has to finish somewhere in the mid-pack, and he would be fine if Dennis Heinz wins the race. If Dominic Lala is here in 2 weeks, but seeing how he's usually in those races, I don't think that this will be...
He's not just Mr. Consistency on track, but also at turning up for events.
Very much so. Pascal Jordan moved up to 9th. Danny Schroeder with this one race on 144 points in P11. And Julien Chicot also up into 5th in the standings. So I think the fight for P5 in the standings and of course for the win will be quite interesting. But we will see that in 2 weeks at Spa-Francorchamps. Next week we will have the first of the 2 finales coming up, because the Founders League will go into its final race with a 10-lap race at the Nordschleife in GT3s. So I'm very much looking forward to that one. GT3s and Nordschleife are always a blast. And
it's always a good combo, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean the 2.4-hour race we had, it was absolutely wild. But yeah, then we will have this race as finale, and of course next week we will also have GT4s at Hockenheim for a 45-minute race with a day and night cycle. So until then, we wish you a great weekend. Hope you enjoyed the day off if you had one today. And until then, have a great time and goodbye.
Goodbye.